I know there are a lot of New American Standard Bible fans out there, and if you are a fan of the New American Standard Bible, this might be a very interesting Bible for you to look at. And actually, you probably already know about this Bible. There's been buzz more about it recently because it is an older edition of the NASB. And the New American Standard Bible has a 2020 edition update coming out this year. So I think there are some people who are actually really fascinated by the older edition than the current edition that's been out for a long time, which the current edition that you see on the shelves typically is the 95. So this is the 1977 edition, but these are still in print by AMG publishers. And you can get this, it's really interesting because you can get this brand new, and it only costs about $28 on Amazon and CBD. It comes with this nice two-piece box, and for an older edition, which it's pretty cool that you can still get this. This is a really nice Bible. Has a lot of nice features. It's called Giant Print, and Giant is relative. The reason they call this a giant print Bible isn't that the print is huge. It's actually an 11-point type. But the size of the Bible is more of a hand-sized Bible, actually. It's a personal size. I don't know if it says it on the box here. But this is basically like a personal size Bible. So it's not a huge Bible. If you look at the measurements here, you're looking at only about 8.5 inches by around 6 inches wide and about 2 inches thick. Not quite 2 inches thick. So it is thick, but it's not a huge Bible, but the print is still an 11 point. So for the size of the Bible, that is considered a giant print. Although I think that's a bit overstated on the front of the box here with the huge word giant. It's really not that big of print. But as you can see, it's got a nice readable layout, 11-point font with good spacing in between the lines. AMG also puts out a keyword study Bible, and I believe for the NASB edition, they still use the 77 edition of the NASB. So that's interesting. But this is definitely the 1977 edition. This has a bonded leather cover to it and Holy Bible stamped on the front. A lot of stamping on the side there. There's a lot there. If you want to know what's in the Bible, it's very clear. Everything is listed out there. So a lot on the side there. But it's really a cool Bible. It really is. And this cover, even though it's bonded leather, it actually is pretty nice. If I compare it to a genuine leather here from the ESV Crossway, actually they feel pretty similar. I think this is a little bit thicker, but they both have kind of this vinyl paste down liner inside, and actually they feel very similar. And this is considered genuine leather, and yet it's really not much different than this bonded leather. So I would say it's not quite as nice as the genuine leather that I just showed you, but it's still, for bonded leather, quite nice. This is another bonded leather, Zondervan NASB, and I would say that this AMG is a little bit nicer bonded leather than that. It's got a tooled line on the edge there, gold gilt on the sides. Head and tail bands are two-colored. And then a kind of a rounded spine there you can see. The inside here has some nice front pages for you, which you will see in quite a few Bibles, although they're not always all of these pages. Sometimes they just have one presentation page, so you get all that. This shows you again all the features. The copyright page here, so you can see the copyrights go up to 1977, and on the bottom here you can see this is actually a 2019 printing. It's the 10th printing of 2019 is what that looks like. The copyright of this actual edition, though, is from 2011. AMG holds the copyright to this particular typeset and everything. And there's the preface. The contents has the Lockman Foundation foreword to the New American Standard Bible. the Preface to the New American Standard Bible. Then we get into the Old Testament. I do think that this translation, and I will show you a little bit of this compared to the 95 edition, but this 77 version of it is really a hybrid of the Old and New language of the Bible. So in some ways it has some language that sounds like the King James Version, but it also is more modern than the King James Version. And the 95 NASB is really more modern English. So this is in between that Old English style and modern English in certain places at least. It does have book introductions, and they're very nice book introductions from what I've seen. You can see how they formatted this here with the chapter and the chapter heading. Verse by verse, double column format. When you get to a new paragraph, they have bold verse numbers and a pilcrow. So very obvious chapter designations, even though this is verse by verse format. It also has references at the end of the verses in certain places. So you can see some cross references there. Very good use of space, in my opinion. It has, of course, those typical features of the New American Standard Bible in terms of formatting. The pronouns for deity are capitalized, and if they've supplied words in English, then they put those words in italics, as opposed to the regular font there. One feature of this Bible that is a little bit more old school is that they actually do have these runners at the beginning of the pages or the top of the pages that just give the subject of generally what you're going to find on each page, which is nice if you're kind of wanting to follow along and say, okay, what's on here? And looking at this page, it looks like this one matches with the first one here. So I would say on the left page, the top here matches with the first chapter heading, and on the right page, it matches with the last chapter heading. That's what it looks like to me. But anyway, that just gives you the general topic for each page that you can see easily at the top. But then in the text, you do have these separated chapter headings throughout the text. You can see there is a poetic format here for poetry. Really, really readable 11-point font. I don't know that I would really call it a giant print, but it is a good size. And that is one thing that makes this Bible really nice. A lot of people do speak well of it, because it's quite portable, a little bit thick, but still really portable, and yet very readable. When you get into the Psalms here, you can see something unique about the 77 NASB, and that is when there is reference to deity. When we're speaking to deity, someone is speaking to deity, you're going to see that Old English style for reverence. And so here in Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. So it's not Old English there. It doesn't say he maketh me lie down. But when you get to this part of the psalm here, it says, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, because this is talking directly to God. So that's different from the 95. In the 95, it would just say, for you are with me. Getting into the New Testament here, you see it as a red letter for the words of Christ. Another example here in the book of Mark of that reference to deity is here where Jesus is being baptized. A voice came out of the heavens, thou art my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased. In the 95 edition, it says a voice came out of the heavens, you are my beloved Son, in you I am well pleased. So they capitalize reference to deity there, but they use modern wording. Later in the book of Mark, you can also see some differences, and they're pretty minor. Some people ask, what's the difference between the 77 edition and the 95? And yes, mainly it is the these and the thous in reference to deity, but there are some other word updates here, just minor things, just to make it more modern, more like the way that we speak today. For example, Mark 13, verse 13 here, the one who endures to the end, he shall be saved. That's what it says in the 77. Over here it says, but the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. So as you can see, that's pretty much the same, but we tend nowadays not to use the word shall, so they change that to the word will. Another example right here is where it says in the 77, but woe to those who are with child and to those who nurse babes in those days. over here in the 95 edition, it says, "But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days." So just some minor wording changes there. With child now says who are pregnant. Nursing babes now says nursing babies. So not a huge difference, but that is why in the 95 they said they were making it more readable. So I thought that you'd be interested to see some of those differences. Let's get to the back here. After the book of Revelation, there is a table of weights and measures and a concordance. And I'm glad that the concordance, if you're going to have it, is a good size. Schuyler Bibles, that is one real downside of them, is that they just don't have good size font in the concordance, which is so interesting because the font in their text is so nice and readable. So I'm really glad that they have a good size font in the concordance here. If you're going to have a concordance, you might as well make it readable. You got a daily Bible reading schedule to read the Bible through the year. So that's really nice. And then some maps. These maps are fine. They look good to me. They are on kind of a glossy cardstock, but it's not extremely shiny. So they're actually pretty nice feel to it. Those look good. So overall, my impressions of this Bible are just really good. The ghosting on this is not bad. It's a little bit noticeable. It's not line matched, but it's still quite readable, and I don't think the ghosting is distracting. So I would say the paper quality actually is quite good for the price you're paying, only about $28. And that good size font, it does have some cross references, but I just love how this layout is really quite clean looking. It's not too busy, and you can really read the text easily. So a great preaching and teaching Bible if you wanted to teach out of the NASB 77. Now, I'm not sure who would want to do that, but I'm sure in some contexts that might be your preference. So it could be used for that, but I think the main use is just having a good Bible to be able to see what the older NASB says if you want to have that on hand. And this is a really good Bible for that. Great to have on your shelf, great for study, great to be able to compare to other translations. And I think John MacArthur used to use this back in the day in older sermons. So if you're following along with John MacArthur in an old sermon, you can follow along in this Bible and read the same text that he's reading. So there you go. So that was a look at the NASB 77 put out by AMG Publishers in the black bonded leather. Thank you so much for taking a look at this Bible with me, brought to you from A Frisch Perspective.